and for parking, certainly south of 98 for the beaches. And otherwise, we're just running around helter-skelter, looking at a piece of property here, a piece of property there, or every piece of property that looks like it's coming up for sale, with no rationale for why we're doing it, no idea how much we ought to pay. We ought to have garages that are multi-level, potentially, and shuttles going back and forth to the beaches that are available, the larger public beaches or the state park beaches. And I don't think anybody has considered that, or if they have, I've never heard of anything about it. And I think it's irrational to just do this without any plan or any thought given to it, because maybe the TDC has some money to spend on property. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Can I just address that real quick?
Yeah.
Just real quick, just to respond to Mr. Brooks' comments. Mr. Brooks, sorry. The TDC, I mean, the properties that we are looking at, I mean, we are using previous reports that we have obtained over the past few years to identify properties in areas where we need them. So that is something that we are doing. We're also looking beyond that, additionally, for parking areas that might not have been identified in these reports, like the Dean Allen property that wasn't even on the radar then because we didn't have a beach access there. So we are looking at reports and referring to those when we're making these decisions and these recommendations to the board.
All right. Mr. Jaffe.
I will be brief. Rich Jaffe is J-A-F-F-E. I'm the president of the Historic Inlet Beach Neighborhood Association. Thank you. I don't know whether it is purely a fiscal issue and the price of that property, or the fact that our community turned out en masse and let you know that we don't need any additional parking lots in Inlet Beach. We don't want any additional parking lots. We're fine with the big one at the park. So regardless of the whys and wherefores, I can speak for the entire community and say thank you. We're very glad that this one, at least, is off the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jaffe. Mr. Bagby.
Jim Bagby, VAGBY. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. And I want to echo Mr. Brooks' statement. What is the plan? And notwithstanding Mr. Tusa's comments, you know, you talk about the strategic plan, you don't have a vision that you've approved. Okay, go back to '94 when the county had a vision and the county had a plan, and the county executed that plan. We do not have a plan. You keep buying here, you keep buying there. You got a $7 million lot sitting down there that you're going to put an amphitheater on. You still haven't developed the plans for the amphitheater. You want to buy another lot tonight, you're going to put another amphitheater on. Maybe you get a twofer, okay, and you can build the same amphitheater in both locations. But you don't have a plan. Before you start spending all this money, and oh, by the way, and I say this, I know the realtors in the crowd will disown me, but we're probably near the top of the market, or we can see the top of the market for a while from here. You're spending all this money, overspending, buying some of these properties, or proposed to buy some of these properties, and then we'll have a correction, and you could get them for 2/3 the cost, the exact same properties, and you could execute a plan. Please develop a plan that you've approved, okay? Not that's been in, you know, the TDC for the last couple of years, but has been approved by the Board of County Commissioners based on the board that sits here today, and execute that plan. Stop just buying here and buying there and buying somewhere else because you got money. Because when you need that money, it'll be gone because you overpaid for stuff you shouldn't have bought. Thank you.
Anybody else? Suzanne? Excuse me, Ms. Harris.
Well, Mr. Chapman had a great idea when y'all paid $7 million to Jay Odom for his piece of property. And Mr. Chapman talked about how he had been down to St. Augustine, where we all go very regularly, and that they had built a gorgeous parking deck down there, and that it's right in the middle of town. You can't even tell it's a parking deck. It's all brick, looks just like a nice brick building, and that was a great idea he had. About 3 months after y'all spent $7 million on a gravel parking lot, you were going to lease it to Seaside for all the employees to park there. And I think the price was maybe $2,000 a month for 4 months and then $1,000 a month for a couple of months. So I came and offered y'all $3,000 a month to lease it. I'd just have locked it up and let it sit there till Mr. Chapman got us a nice parking deck built so that everybody could come park there and go to the beach. At the same time, y'all talked about what a great place it was because Jay Odom had been to my office, shown me the plans for the amphitheater. He already had the plans drawn. So you were going to have a tremendous parking deck and a great amphitheater. People could park there in the daytime, shuttle them to the beach. Well, I think we're 3 years down the road. We still have an empty piece of property with a gravel parking lot. And if you go and sit there across the street every morning, and I have, so has Mary Nelson, I can send you some videos. The only people that park there are the employees for Seaside. Seaside bus comes, picks them up, takes them to work. Seaside bus brings them back. I don't object to Seaside having a parking lot. But for $7 million of your money and our taxpayer money that's wasted, we need to get up, go ahead, build a nice parking deck, build an amphitheater there, because we have $7 million worth of woods and a few gravel parking places. And we need to take the land we bought, and we need to go ahead and develop what we've got, before we just keep running out and buying lots for businesses to have a parking lot next to the restaurant, and calling it public beach parking, because that's not what it is.
Anyone else? Please refrain from clapping. We'll be here all night.
Lee Moore, M-O-O-R-E. Thank you, Commissioners. I couldn't help but get up because I talked about this yesterday at the budget workshop, and it's come up again. I have suggested to previous commissions before this particular one, to the TDC, our TDC Destination Improvement Committee made a recommendation on a holistic parking and transportation plan, parking just being one part of it. Years ago, predates Mr. Tusa. I've brought it up along the way several times, so since it's come up and been recommended, I will put my voice in there. I'm speaking representing Howard Group, my employer. I cannot recommend strongly enough that we do that. My suggestion is that we hire a professional transportation planning firm that specializes in transportation planning. They're out there, they've done amazing things, and I'd also suggest we look for one that has done parking and transportation plans for areas that experience seasonal tourism influx, because that adds an entire aspect to our problems that a lot of cities and counties and communities don't deal with. But it's been dealt with successfully in other places. But I think, no offense to any of our staff here, at any level, TDC, county, otherwise, but I think it needs a professional planning approach because it's complicated. And now that we have growth starting to spread up north, it's going to get even more complicated. So I think it would be money well spent, not a tremendous amount of money, especially for a county with revenue generation like ours, to hire a transportation planning firm, get that plan in place, and then it's going to make things a lot easier for everybody going forward. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Lee.
Chairman, may I make a comment,
Sure.
please? Jay, could you, we've been down this road as a board, and without getting into detail or saying something of the companies, we had a transportation company. Can you kind of talk through, because it didn't come to fruition.
It did not, so we had somebody.
What year was that we started this as a board? I think the first year I was here.
I think it
We
was-
have tried.
I think it was 2 years ago, we had somebody who came forward and did an unsolicited proposal. They were here present for quite a while, and when they were to bring a contract back, that did not happen. So,
It did not happen for a reason, though. And the reason was that the price he came back with was not what he led us to believe to start with.
Well, but, I mean,
So
he
it-
chose not to bring a contract to the board.
Just so you know, this all started, we were all in favor of this. So, but we were led to believe that it would be basically no cost to the county over the long haul, and the first bid was $54 million. So, you know, that's a little different than zero. So that's why we moved past that. Lee, if you want to come up.
I just don't want anyone to assume that we've stuck our head in the sand over part of
No,
that.
and that's not the case, but here's my opinion. I watched that whole thing, you know, closely. The challenge, I think, with that particular situation is that was a consultant that stood to benefit by providing some of the solutions that they recommended. And that leads to a lot of potential difficulties, and I think it also led to some, I think, from what I heard, it led to some discomfort of this board, rightly so. So my recommendation is to hire a transportation planning firm that will do a plan that will include an implementation strategy and tactics, but when they're done with that plan, they're done. They don't benefit financially from any of the potential solutions, because that complicates and convolutes things. And there are firms out there that will do this, and that is not what this unsolicited bid came from. So, and I'm not saying that nobody's ever tried to work on this, but that solution hasn't been done that I'm aware of, and I really think that would be the best way to approach it.
Mr. Chairman?
And it's not going to be free either. That was misleading.
Mac's not in here, I don't think, but my understanding is we're in the process right now of doing a mobility fee study, which is the first step in providing the funding that would provide the transportation system. So we've started down the path. Mac can, if Mac don't mind coming up, he can certainly tell better than I can. But we've started down the path to provide the financing, and we've got an engineering firm that's at least working on the 38 piece of this, correct?
Yes, sir. We can't hear outside of the boardroom here, so I'm not really sure exactly where you are.
Mobility study.
Yes, sir. That study did kick off last week. It's an 18-month contract term. We're hoping to get that within 15 and maybe 12 months. But we'll be pushing very hard on that.
And you've got the piece for the north-south transportation we're doing the buses, correct?
Yes, sir. We've received the grant agreement from DOT, and that funds us for 3 years.
So now we've got to find an east-west.
Yes, sir. We've got to solve the south portion.
But the mobility study is the first piece in the whole grand scheme, correct?
Yes, sir, and the intent is for a portion of those mobility fees to help fund transit, along with the other transportation improvements that this board deems necessary for our future.
And along those lines, while we may not have stated a plan, at least I think most of us have a vision where we need to go. And for an example, the land, when we were faced with the choice of the land to buy parking in the north of Ed Walling Park, the parcel we chose, which was the parcel just north of there, the larger parcel, instead of the smaller parcel, at least my reasoning for that decision was based on that parcel was large enough to support a transportation solution. So I don't think it's fair to say that we're just willy-nilly buying property. We're doing it with a reason, and the property that was on north of 393 was large enough to support some of these things in the future, where the other parcel was closer to the beach but didn't. So we are trying. And I think we need to keep that in mind going forward. Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Yes,
Anyone else? Come ahead, sir. You'll be next. Dave, you're no, this guy over here is first, and then guy on the front, and then you.
Yeah, I just want to address one of the proposed...
Please state your name and spell your last name.
My name's Frank Green, Greene, and I just want to address one of the proposed purchases of property for apparently beach parking. That's the one at the corner of Wall Street and Pompano Street in Inlet Beach. And that would be inserting a parking lot in the middle of a residential neighborhood, and I think that's totally improper. I think it would,
We've already got a motion on the floor to not even consider that any longer.
okay, well, sorry. I was outside, I didn't hear that part of it.
Well, that's on the floor, it's just public discussion right now.
Okay.
Okay.
You're next, Dave, after this guy.
I'm sorry, but Danny Hornsby, HORNSBY, 202 Pompano Street. I was a little confused, and you had a motion to pull the 240 Pompano Street. Does that mean if you do vote to pull it, that it won't come back up here another 2 or 3
I ain't
weeks?
saying it could never come back at a future date, but right now, it would not be, we will not move forward on it based upon the motion.
Okay. I'm on the board of Inlet Beach Historical Society, and we have to answer to some of our folks.
Understood.
Thank you.
Dave Roshkold. I just wanted to...
Dave, please spell your last name.
Oh, yeah. R-A-U-S as in Sam, C-H-K-O-L, B as in boy, or beach. I just want to speak in high praise to the county commissioners, all the folks who have worked on this mobility project. I really think that this is a huge win-win for the county, for the Florida legislature, for the citizens of Walton County and the working citizens of North Walton County. And I want to echo what Suzanne Harris said. I think that as a part of that mobility study, we need to find the key areas where we need to either buy property or build parking decks. The mobility study, the shuttle that is going to be planned to be run from the north to the south and the east to the west is hugely important and will be incredibly helpful. For one, workers will not have to drive their cars. Hopefully it'll be free. They won't have to maintain vehicles. A lot of the complaints that I get from my workers that live in Defuniak Springs is my car broke down. So that's huge. That's potentially, hundreds, if not 1,000 or more cars that are out of parking spaces and off the roads, and less accidents. There's just so many win-win with that program. So the main key drop-off points are going to be really important, and it's got to be coordinated, and it's got to be on time, and it's got to be reliable. And straight out of the gate, it has to be that way so that the community can gain confidence in this. And it will benefit the workers, the businesses, the employers, everybody. So I'm so pleased that there's a comprehensive plan to make this happen. And to the extent that we do buy property, I think parking decks is a really smart idea. And we should really focus on that. Thank you.
Well, Dave, the parking deck, as Ms. Harris mentioned, is one thing that we were talking about at that 7 acres over there in Grayton. When we brought that up for discussion, more than half of the crowd in there come unglued.
Yep.
They said, no parking garages, nowhere down here. I think it'll work because, as she alluded to, and I've been there, and probably some of y'all in this room have been here, been over to St. Augustine. You can't even tell where it's at. You can make the facade look like it belongs there. So that's the problem we have run into concerning parking garages. Whenever the majority of the room is filled, and plus the emails, they just blister our backsides, because why would you even think about putting a parking garage in my area?
Well, if we learned anything from great planning and design of Seaside, and that great planning and design that has flowed over into our communities, a parking deck can be made to look like anything you want, and it can be a very beautiful design. Certainly better than a hotel. We didn't want a hotel with more beds and more cars and more. So I think there's a way to do it. I just think that we just have to build community support.
Well, I just want
Sure.
to remind everybody of what we went through at that time.
Well, you can always bring things back.
I understand, and I ain't saying it's dead. I'm just saying that if we move forward in that direction, we got to consider that, and sometimes it becomes politically disadvantaged to us to make a decision to go ahead and move forward.
Well,
I don't have to worry about it. I'm not running next year. So,
I'm not either. It's a valuable piece of property, and we should use it to its fullest potential, and I think we should do that with all the properties, including, beach access, parking, all of that. So, thank you.
Ms. Harris, I believe you've already spoken on this.
Mr. Chairman, I call the question.
Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor to take this off the table, and have a call to question. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item, number 36, is an update on property located at 498 and 508 Eastern Lake Road. This was at the request of Commissioner Chapman. He asked staff to investigate these two parcels, which we did. And we were looking at two other pieces of property, just a little bit to the...
Mr. Tusa, could you wait just a second?
Yes, sir.
For the people from Inlet Beach, if you would like to leave, you could go ahead and leave now. We'll wait a few minutes. If you want to stay, you're more than welcome to stay.
There's another one.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, so as per Commissioner Chapman's request, there are two other pieces of property just to the west, about 3 properties over, that we were looking at last meeting, or meeting before last, rather, sorry. And so he asked us to look into these two pieces of property on this corner adjacent to our beach access there. The one at 498 Eastern Lake Road, that one is actually on the market. It was listed for $2.1 million. And I spoke to the owner today, and they just recently reduced that price to $2 million. And then the 508 Eastern Lake Road, I spoke to the owner of that property, and he said while his house is not on the market, he would entertain an offer from the county. I explained to him our process and how that worked, that we get 2 appraisals, and we do an averaged appraised value. He did say that he wasn't interested in selling his property, but that if we were interested, he would entertain an offer. So I'm not sure where that would put us with, average appraised value, over average appraised value, but just wanted to kind of give you an update on that.
Mr. Chairman. I was kind of looking to see where we could find some access to get onto the beach there at Eastern Lake. And those parcels that he mentioned a minute ago were further to the west of that intersection. And then I asked him to look into 498 and 508 Eastern Lake. And then that's when he advised me that parcel A, 498, was on the market. What that would do is put it directly across the street from where the beach boardwalk is, getting down into Eastern Lake area. So I would, based upon that knowledge tonight, 392 Eastern Lake, I'm not that interested in it anymore. It's further to the west, probably 500 or 600 feet, give or take.
What about the property adjacent to that, the 406, that's next to the 392?
Hang on a
Would
minute.
you lump that one in there with the other one?
406,
Yeah, 406 is the one with the pool.
406
pool.
and 392 are sort of a package deal.
yeah.
The other two.
If it's at all possible, this is just me, Commissioners, parcels 498 Eastern and 508 Eastern Lake, I would think it would be more in line with and closer to our access to the beach if we are able to secure those, and then we wouldn't necessarily need the parcels to the west. We've got some limited parking there. Is that, I think for golf carts?
I think we have 8 spots in the right-of-way right there.
Yeah.
However, a bird in the hand's worth 2 in the bush, and we don't know if we can get the other 2, because the guy but if we let these slide, then they go away, potentially.
They could,
So we could not have anything.
yeah.
We could at least continue negotiating on the first two and then get appraisals on the second two.
Okay, would you please refer to what two you're talking about?
We could, the two that we have appraisals on that have agreed to the negotiated price, which is at the appraised value,
Which ones are
which is
those?
406 and 392. We could at least continue to talk to those while we get the appraisals on 498 and 508, because there's no guarantee 508 is going to sell to us, period. So we could wind up with nothing down there if we ain't real careful.
Isn't that a mobile home right there on parcel B 508?
I don't think so.
It's kind of hard to tell from here, it kind of does look
Yeah,
like it, but
I don't believe so.
Not in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
well, it might have been there 50 years ago, too. All right,
Just real quick, though, to Commissioner Gladwell's comments, I mean, we've already negotiated, and they're coming in at the average appraised value for those two parcels at 406, and just so we're all clear on the numbers.
392.
392.
so the prices that are listed in our book is what has been negotiated down to?
Correct.
That's about $2 million.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to step in, but I was going to say the next step with the two parcels that are further to the west, we wouldn't take any official action tonight. The only action would be for you to direct staff to bring back a contract. So we
Correct.
wouldn't be locked into those properties if you still wanted to explore, the parcels that are closer to the east and closer to the outfall.
I'm just not sure, though, with the timing of obtaining appraisals on those two new parcels, if that would work with the contract, because appraisals can take anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks, depending on the workload of the appraiser.
So I understand that, Jay, but we got to have it anyway. Now, it may work, it may not.
I agree. I'm just letting you know.
So are you making a motion?
I ain't made nothing yet. We got about 6 parcels worth on the table.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we need to talk about 37 right now,
Yeah.
so
37 or 36.
Well, could we do both of them in one motion, 37 and 38?
Yes, sir, if you decide to. And just for the clarity of the audience, item number 36 deals with the two parcels that are
Yeah,
further to
36
the
and
east.
37, I'm sorry.
And then items 37 and 38 deal with the parcels that are further to the west.
Okay.
On Eastern Lake Road,
so
right?
36 is in...
Yeah, 36 and 37, do both of them right.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to do, Danny?
I was
You
gonna
you
make
can
a-
handle them together if you'd like. We just need to make sure that we take public comment on all of the items, if you consider them together.
I would make a motion to permit staff to, or permit Mr. Tusa to negotiate a contract on 392 and 40, no, is that right? 392 and 406. And also to get appraisals on 498 and 508.
Don't we already,
So that keeps our options open.
Okay, just for clarification, parcel 508, as far as we know, is not technically on the market, so we would be asking them to reach out, see if they were open to sell.
So that, I spoke to the owner today, and he is.
As long as we make a thing to it.
Yeah,
we need an appraisal.
so we need an appraisal for us to be able to do that.
Okay.
So it would be to negotiate the contract on 392 and 406, and to get appraisals on 498 and 508.
So just for clarification, so for the contract, obviously we want to wait to bring that contract back until we obtain those appraisals,
Correct.
correct? Okay, just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
we're all on the same page.
And those contracts would be at the negotiated price on both of those lots.
Correct.
Do we have a second?
I'll go with a second.
Any discussion anymore from the board? Nikki?
Yes, my name is Mickey Whitaker, W-H-I-T-A-K-E-R, and I'm the realtor that represents 406 Eastern Lake Road. And I was hoping in the last month, since all this has came about, that the commissioners would have ridden by and viewed these properties and seen. The two properties y'all were talking about then, they're great properties, no doubt about it. Not a problem. But if you're looking at them for parking, I'm telling you, you're not going to get a whole lot of parking on them. I mean, if you don't want parking and you just want a piece of property, you know, great. But the difference between them, 406 and 392 and the two other parcels, y'all are talking about postponing any action on 406 and 392 far, you're going to probably get probably a fifth or a sixth or maybe even an eighth of the amount of parking on those two parcels versus the other two. If you look at the road, it's wise, and, you know, the depth there, I mean, on 406 is on a piece of property that's, I think, about 180 feet deep. You look at those parcels, you know, on the front corner, you don't have 100 feet probably. And
Right,
so
our paperwork actually shows 57, it looks like Chance put a small inset, so it shows it on 392 and 406, 57 vehicular parking spots.
yeah, that's something, I don't know if that is accurate or not, but I'm just saying on the other two, I mean, you can look at it on your map there and you can see you're going to get a lot less. And otherwise, and these, you know, I guess I'm used to not negotiating with government. Good Lord, I mean, you know, time just keeps dragging on, and postponing stuff for a month means, I mean, it's nothing to you guys, but I mean, it's actual money to other people. I mean, you know, and I'm sure y'all physically responsible and all that, but these owners of this property, we negotiated what we thought was a price that the county was willing to pay for them. I had my seller sign a contract at this. We chose a closing date. Title work's been done, everything. If you're not interested in them, I'm fine. I can go back with the seller and tell them you're not interested. They want to delay it another 2 or 3, 4 months, and, you know, and we'll keep it up. We'll, you know, I'll actually market it if that's what you want to do. But if you lose this property and you decide you don't want the other property, I mean, I've seen it happen. I've seen properties before this board. I've had on 2 occasions. People say, we want property in Seacrest area. We need beach access in Seacrest area. 2 great pieces of property in the Seacrest area. The county owns neither one of them. And there's a reason for that. And I mean, the reality of this thing, these properties were presented in January. Today is July.
Vicki, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm done anyway.
Mr. Bruck.
Bob Brook, B-R-O-O-K-E. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I look at the diagram here that I'm sure you have in front of you of the 2 parcels or 4 parcels and 2 packages that are up for consideration. And my first question that comes to mind is this beach a neighborhood beach or is it a regional beach?
A neighborhood, I believe.
Neighborhood.
So is there any criteria or difference in parking requirements for regional beach access and neighborhood beach access?
Mr. Tusa, you want to answer that?
So this area is a highly trafficked area. We have some right-of-way parking there, but obviously there's lots of people who come and park in this area, golf carts, cars, bicycles. So even though it is a neighborhood beach access, you know, there's quite a bit of beach there. And so obviously parking in the area helps relieve parking congestion in the area. So, some neighborhoods can allow for more parking areas than others. Some, there might not be anything available. There could be right-of-way parking. So I think it just depends on the circumstance of each particular beach.
So there are no facilities on this beach for restrooms or anything of that sort, being it's a neighborhood beach access. I'd certainly recommend that the board take those things into consideration. I mean, this is in a neighborhood. How big do you want to build parking in a neighborhood? That's kind of a question, although I don't know that there's anybody here from this neighborhood. Thank you.
Sir, you're next.
My name is Joseph Namie, N-A-M-I-E. I'm a resident at 431 Eastern Lake Road. And my hope is that I can add to what many people here have previously said about this neighborhood beach access we have at number 10 and 11, Ramsgate. Life and safety are very important. I know that's paramount to everybody. Putting more cars at a very narrow beach, Seagrove Beach, more parking is not going to help with the beach conditions already. Number one, the TDC here, through their openings of Eastern Lake, pretty much negate even getting to the beach half the time because of the water being at 5 foot in the dune outfall. But life and safety with this additional parking, public parking, you got kids, my grandkids, other people's kids that walk those streets, they jog, ride bikes and everything else. It's a neighborhood, and the deeded access is neighborhood. To all our properties, we have a neighborhood deeded access there. Making more parking is going to overrun that area. I don't even know if a traffic study's been done, but it should be done. It's just going to devastate our property values too. You may not believe that, but I can tell you, it did it at Blue Mountain Beach. It's going to be hard for fire and ambulance to get in that area with all the congestion. And I sent a letter out earlier, some of you may have seen it, a picture of those 8 parallel parking spaces. There's always 15 cars there, half of them jutting out on the Eastern Lake Road, so you have to kind of go around. And if somebody's jogging, they're just in peril. The walking activities in this neighborhood, which we've all enjoyed all these years, they'll go away with this public parking. The options that we've talked about, I've talked to probably 30 families. There's plenty of property on 30A that you could buy. If you want to put parking there and still put people on Seagrove Beach, it's going to overcrowd it, but you can do that. And an easy shuttle service, or you can walk to the beach. It's about 4 blocks. All those properties were there when we bought them, and all of us paid value for our homes based on being close to an access and being close to the beach. I'm trying to look at all my points here. As Joni Mitchell said in a song, we're paving paradise and putting up parking lots. And we don't need to do that here in Seagrove. All on 30A. It's a golden goose. And y'all are the overlords in charge of this development. And I know it's hard to compensate and get things going and get more money. But I plead to you for all the people that live in our neighborhood, which are from 30A down Eastern Lake Road up South Gulf Drive, please take these properties off the market for now till we can do a different study and try to figure out a different solution. I just ask you to do that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ma'am, come ahead.
My name is Tina Barron, B-A-R-A-N. I live in this gentleman's neighborhood as well. I was just wondering how they will they have to access into that beach access? Will they have to go down Lakewood Drive? Because already Lakewood Drive is backed up with cars. The gentleman is right. Our neighborhood cannot take any more impact of cars coming into that area. It's unbelievable. That's an area that needs to be preserved. It is a neighborhood beach access.
Ma'am, this is not on Lakewood Drive.
Oh, okay, but would they access that into Lakewood Drive? How would they access that beach?
No.
Where would they access the beach? Oh, okay.
You're on the eastern side of the lake. We're talking about the western side of the lake.
Okay, sorry.
Anyone else? Seeing none? Okay. Get that hand up quick.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry. My name's,
Wait till you get up here, please.
I'm actually Ryan Patterson. I'm the owner of 498 Eastern Lake. I need money just like everybody needs money. I want to sell my house. I mean, it's, but I don't want to do it for the sake of my friends, my neighborhood. And let's just speak about it business-wise, because that's what it's all about. How can we, accomplish our goals of making the most people happy? This ain't the right parcel. 498 in my house, even though I want to sell it to you. If you combine both of our properties, it's less than a quarter acre. It's right, and it is, if you talk about location, it is the most amazing location. And the only reason that we had to move is because of the traffic. So we moved over to San Roy on the eastern side of the lake because it's a dead-end street, and we had 3 small children, and they just learned to ride bikes. So
what you're saying is you don't want to sell to us?
I don't want to sell to you.
Okay. Then rest assured, we don't want to buy it.
Well, and not only that, but it's not a good business decision for you.
Well, hey, you've stated you don't want to sell it, that's all you need to say. Thank you.
In that case, I'll amend the motion.
Oh, sure, we should have come up earlier.
In that case, I would amend the motion to take those 2 properties off and just concentrate on the 2 that.
What 2 properties?
That would be
498?
498 and 508. Disregard them and just focus the motion on the 2 that we had already negotiated on. If I can get a.
I'll amend my second.
Okay. So, you want Jay to go back and negotiate with those?
Bring back a contract?
Come back with a contract.
Come back with a
Yeah, 'cause
contract.
it's already been negotiated.
Okay.
So,
Makes Mr. Whitaker happy too.
real quick though, on finances. So, where we are right now, we've purchased a lot of property in the past 3 years. We are getting ready to implement the high-impact penny that is on the agenda for later on in the meeting. So with the purchase of the 393 property, Mary Nielsen's property, earlier this year, and now with the purchase of the Dean Allen property that we're looking at this evening, we're pretty much tapped out with funds. We have $2 million set aside for the beach accesses that we're looking at in Amalfi and in Seagrove. So we could pull some more money out of reserves, but that will put us probably at about, right now we're at about $35 million. So if we take that out, it'd put us a little bit lower, but that is certainly at the board's discretion. If you'd like to go a little bit lower, we certainly can. But this was, I'm just speaking, the board had set aside $8.5 million, I guess about a year ago at this point, for property purchases. So I just kind of wanted to see how you want to handle that.
I think we're good to go ahead right now, as far as I'm concerned.
Speak a little louder.
Yeah, speak up louder.
As far, we can go ahead as far as I'm concerned. I think 30-something million is still all right.
Well, with that being said, I'm in agreement with Danny to go ahead and just dip into that reserve and go ahead and make the purchase. But I think you should have come, I ain't saying you did, I just can't remember everything, saying, okay, we're getting down to this level, we shouldn't even be looking at these other properties.
Well, we just had conversations with Finance Department on that last week, so we just got the numbers back, so that's why I brought it to you as soon as I got it.
Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
What's next?
Let's see.
I have no idea where we're at.
The next agenda item, number 39, update and request direction on property located at...
Sir, we've already voted on that.
The motion,
We're doing away with 38.
No.
Okay.
The motion originally was to
Take both of them.
obtain appraisals on item number 36 and to negotiate a contract on item number 37 and 38. And then whenever the gentleman came forward and said he no longer wanted to sell his property, the motion was amended to no
37.
longer obtain appraisals,
Right.
take the items on 36 off the table, but to continue to negotiate a contract and bring that back on items number 37 and 38.
What?
I thought he already spoke on them, but
Who's that?
did he already speak on those items?
Yes, he did.
Didn't you already speak on those, Mr. Namey?
Well, these are three of the items, and I don't mean to take up too much time about that other comments, I couldn't get in.
Sir, come to the mic, we can't hear you.
My name is Joseph Namey, I live at 431 Eastern Lake Road.
And you spoke on these issues.
I spoke on one of the issues here number 36, Commissioner Anderson. Okay?
Mr. Namey,
Yes, sir.
the motion was for both of these properties.
On 36, I'm confused, and I apologize, but
Yeah,
36...
so am I.
Okay, I understand 36 was taken off the table. And then
37
there's,
and 38 was the motion.
and
Yeah, whenever
those are
we-
taken off the table too?
Right,
Yes.
whenever, no,
Okay.
that wasn't the
No, no, no,
motion.
no, no,
The
no.
motion was to bring back a contract on
Contract.
items number 37 and 38.
Okay.
And I apologize for the confusion, but whenever we began this discussion and before we took public comment, we stated that we were going to be handling items 36, 37, and 38.
And I didn't hear that, and I
I'm sorry,
apologize.
I apologize.
I didn't know they consolidated, them, but I'd still like to get some comments in, just some procedural comments. And I don't know how it works all the time, but I never got a notice, and neither did my neighbors get a notice on any of this public parking acquisition. We didn't give a chance to even speak till it got to this stage, and somehow that doesn't seem kosher to me.
Said you want to respond.
Yes, sir, Mr. Namey. So I guess notice, like in the mail, wouldn't be required for this. However, we do negotiate these property purchases in public. We consider them at several meetings. We have to have a public meeting to obtain appraisals, then another meeting to negotiate a price, and then a further meeting to settle on a contract, and another meeting to finalize the closing documents. So all of these property purchases are done in the open with public
And
opportunity.
I didn't
to
mean
speak.
in the, but I wouldn't have known about it had I talked to Commissioner Anderson's chief of staff and not known about it. I was calling about a different issue and didn't know. And many of my neighbors didn't know. And that just doesn't seem to be, I mean, how would you find out till it came time to do something? And now, that's why I'm up here, and maybe some of my neighbors here also, but for the same reasons I stated earlier. This is a neighborhood. It's a place where people live. And you put a public parking lot in there, and I don't know what size, but the beach is already overcrowded. If you just go down to Seagrove, you can see. I was down there this morning, and it's just not, you can put a lot of parking, you can get all the parking you want, but people aren't going to be able to live at the beach because it takes about 12 square feet for a family of four to set up a tent and chairs and just enjoy it, even when you stack them deep. And with Eastern Lake doing what it does, and the outfall not being cut out due south, you lose even more beach. I ask you to please take these off the table and consider other options on 30A, maybe north or south, that old Hampton Inn plot. Put a parking garage there. I mean, you've already got a Snappy Turtle on the south. I mean, it just doesn't seem right for the few that, the 35 or 4 I've talked to, plus I don't know how many other families that live there, to have their properties and their neighborhood culture and the life and safety of people that live there be changed like this. There's other solutions, and you already got an overcrowded beach. So, you know, I just ask you to consider that, and to...
Mr. Namey, just to let you know, so the decision's not final. We would have to bring back the contract at a future meeting. You're welcome to come back at that meeting, and your neighbors too, and you can speak on this item again at that time.
Okay, well, I guess my point here now is like a good defense lawyer trying to get my client off the hook there, and we just got a good neighborhood, and it's paradise. It's been that way for a long time, and a lot of families would be impacted by this, but thank you for your time and the ability to speak again. I'm sorry I was confused.
Jay, let's take a short break.
Yeah.
We'll be right back and finish up with you. Y'all want to go ahead and eat something? We're going to take probably about a 20-minute break.